So I'm just going to set up a few things here, and then I'm going to do a painting of a cafe scene with a difference, hopefully. Yeah, that seems to be working okay. Okay, away we go. So I'm starting with pencil to begin with. I'm just going to very lightly put in a few gestural marks. I don't know how well they'll show up on camera. Oh no, you can see them on camera, so that's okay. And the idea here is to have some figures enjoying a cup of tea or some grub and some outdoor tables. This was actually inspired by a visit to the Two Bridges Hotel or pub. It's a bit of both, really. I can't remember what the official title is, but it's a place up on Dartmoor. And I'll explain a bit more as we go along. But you can see I've fairly quickly popped in a figure there, stirring some tea. And then in my reference, there's a guy sat right here in the middle with his back to the viewer, but I'm going to ignore him. And the table's actually a bit larger diameter than I'm going to depict it. But we're going to have a second person here. I probably need to make this table a little smaller than I've got it, but we're okay for the moment. So that, yeah, but we'll end the table there, and then need to have some legs for the table, for the person, and then a supporting leg for the table. So that's the beginnings of the scene. So far, so conventional. And if you've got any questions at all, pop them in the live chat, and I'll do my hello Sakuno03FF. Thanks for watching, and I'll do my best to answer as we go along. There might be a little bit of a delay because if I'm in the middle of drawing or whatever, then that could add to the answering time. But what we're going to do now, having popped those two in, we're going to have another character back here, maybe wearing some shades. And he's maybe leaning over to see what's going on at the table in the foreground. So I won't tell you what that is just yet, but if you stick around, you'll find out. Or indeed, if you watch the channel regularly, you might have some idea about what I'm going to pop into the scene to make it a little surreal. So I have another person here. And ideally, I could do with a fifth person, but I think that's okay for now. I don't want to crowd the scene too much. So do I need to add anything else? We could perhaps add part of a window here. and perhaps a hint of an archway there. So I'm kind of making that up just to create a little bit of an environment. Okay, cool. So having done that, now what we can do is I'm just grabbing my watercolor kit here, and I'll use that to put in some loose washes for the background initially, and then we'll refine things. But as I said, I'm hoping to add a bit of a surreal element to proceedings as we go along. So to begin with, I'm just going to make use of some of that leftover paint I've got there, a little bit of a grayish blue. And we'll add a touch of what I think that was, oh no, that is the Prussian blue from the other day. And just add some light background color. Hi, Lily. Thanks for watching. And hi, Alfie Martin. Thank you very much for watching. As I say, do feel free to ask questions in the chat if you have any. So I'm just going to mix some of that Prussian blue with the alizarin crimson. We'll pop in a bit of darker color for the background archway. And then down here under the table, I want things fairly dark. So we'll come back in with the Prussian blue, trying to keep things fairly coherent. Hi, Alfie. How long have I been painting for? I guess, well, if I suppose seriously, for about 25, 26 years. But I always did it before that. I was always kind of doing it as a background hobby for another sort of 10, 15 years before that. So, at least 40 years, I suppose. But in the late 90s, I kind of made the decision to, really dedicate some time to it and try to make sure I painted regularly. Not in terms of putting pressure on myself or anything, but just wanted to take the opportunity when I had it to paint regularly. And I found the more I did it, the more I enjoyed doing it. Even though I was already enjoying painting and drawing on a sort of in a casual way, as projects came along or as I felt inspired, I would just do something. But once I started dedicating myself to it, kind of doing it more regularly, then I really did get into it, and it just kind of kept going, really. Have you sold any paintings? Yeah, thanks again, Alfie. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I do sell my work regularly. I sell both originals and prints, and they've sold all over the world. So most of my prints I sell directly through my website. People can just order direct. And then the originals, people can just drop me an email and inquire about an original they've seen on the site. And, then we go from there. But yeah. So I've done lots of different projects over the years, as well as selling paintings and things. I've painted murals and done some graphic design work. So yeah, it keeps it interesting. The thing I like most about that is with the art is in terms of the sales. I mean, obviously it's always nice when you sell a painting, but what I really like about it is that you end up connecting with people all over the world that I just wouldn't have come across before. So fairly recently, a rancher and a vet in the States who've been working with cattle their whole life, they contacted me and said, I'd like to buy some originals to put up in the office. And so they bought several cattle paintings. Some of them were fairly traditional in style. Others were, a little more stylized, sort of dramatically different colors to reality. Others were surreal. So yeah, that was really cool. Without, like I'm streaming live now. It's crazy that I'm able to, or to my mind, it's crazy. It's easy to take it for granted, but we're able to stream and interact with people everywhere. I just think it's just one of the coolest things to be able to do that. Oh, thanks very much, Alfie. That's great. Appreciate that. Okay, so while I was chatting away there, I've just put in an initial color for some flesh tone, and I've just realized what I could do if I switch to my flat brush here. I can take some of that purple color that I used before, and we'll use that could do with it being a bit darker. So I'm just mixing up, sorry, it's off camera at the moment, I'm just mixing up a darker version of that color. So Kadea Prof said, what is it? So this is going to be a cafe scene, an outdoor cafe scene, but I'm going to add a surreal twist to the scene as we sort of move forward. So at the moment, it's just a conventional cafe scene. So I was saying a few minutes ago, it's inspired by an outdoor cafe. Up on Dartmoor. And then Alfie's asked, what's the most you sold a painting for? Well, I'm not going to discuss exact numbers on the channel, but essentially my prices go up with the size of the painting. So a standard size painting would be a few £100 UK pounds. But if then he had a really big painting, which was maybe 50 inches by 40 inches, that would be up in the thousands. But what I do try to do is provide a price point for everyone. So if somebody wanted to buy a small sketch, then that would be affordable. Typically, it could be under £100. But if you buy a much more elaborate acrylic painting, then obviously that requires a lot more work, a lot more material. So generally speaking, the prices are set up so that they increase with size, and there's a little bit of a factor there in terms of the complexity of the work. So if I've just done a quick line drawing, obviously I can make that more affordable for the collector than if I've spent weeks on a painting. Yeah, thousands. Yeah, so that's the way it is with art. Don't get me wrong, I'm not selling paintings for thousands of pounds every week. That's not the case. But it just that's the top end of my product scale. But equally, as I say, there's stuff which is more affordable. Where are we? Let's get some orange going here. So. So my plan with this one, as you can see, is I'm putting in some fairly loose, having done the loose line drawing to begin with, putting in some pretty loose patches of color. And then what I plan to do in a bit is once it's a fairly warm day here today, so my hope is that the paint will dry pretty quickly, and then I'm going to come in with my ink marker and refine the line work, and then we'll go from there. Oh, okay, that's really cool if you're watching from Brazil. I was just saying how great it is to be able to connect with people all over the world. Apparently, YouTube are going to start auto-dubbing my videos into lots of different languages. So I'm hoping that's going to expand the international audience, really. Oh, hi, Galia Goes. Thanks for watching. I've caught a couple of your comments on the live stream, either after the event or after you left the channel. So sorry for not replying before. I can't work out how to reply to them after the live stream has ended. So I've just been getting used to live. But yeah, I have noticed you're watching. So thank you very much for continuing to check out the work and the videos. I really appreciate it. Let's get a bit of green going in here. Give that guy some green shorts so they kind of match up a little bit. And then I'm just pondering what to do with these background figures. Because I've got bright colors in the foreground at the moment, subdued, cool colors in the background. So that's been quite intentional. And then down here is going to get fairly dark, but not crazy. So perhaps I'll just kind of come in with some neutral grays if I can mix some up. So I'm just mixing up some orange with a bit of blue and a bit of yellow. So I've got kind of a grayish green, I guess. So yeah, that'll do. So I just want it to be, it doesn't have to be sort of a battleship grey, but I just want it to be a little more tertiary than the other colours that I've got so far. And I guess what we could do, I've got to think about the table now as well. Perhaps we'll go add a little more yellow to that same colour, a little cad yellow light. Added way too much. So pick up a bit of raw umber. And yeah, this should do, hopefully. We'll just blitz in a little bit of colour there. Okay, so I need to let that dry just for a couple of minutes before I go too wild here. But what I'm going to do next is, what I could do actually, I'll show you a painting that I don't know if any of you saw the stream the other day. But what I'll do is show you a painting that I did the other day on live stream. Hopefully you can all still hear me. Let me see if I can get this off the board. So the reference photo I'm working from today is, as I said, inspired by a trip to to Dartmoor. And this is a painting I started, haven't finished this one yet, from the same trip. So this was on the way to the pub that I'm using. So I'm using watercolor today, but this is interactive acrylic. And you can see it's a scene over the hills from the top of Dartmoor of some belted Galloway cattle in the afternoon light. So I'm quite happy with the way that's going so far. I need to add some more detail to that and refine things a bit. Okay, then let's grab my Unipin marker. So this is just a fine line marker. Now this is a 0.2 mil marker pen, but it puts down a nice water-resistant line, so it's pretty handy, yeah. And so what I'm going to try and do now is maybe if I just use a bit of paper here to mop up that wet paint, is I'm going to come in and focusing on the figures. I'm going to partly draw from my reference, but in addition to that, I'm going to, where I can, it doesn't always work out that well, but where I can, I will use the washes, the random shapes that the wash has created to inspire my drawing. So, we'll see how that goes, but we can but try. So I don't want to touch the painting too much. So the guy back here is wearing a peaked cap, baseball cap. And again, while I'll try to be pretty precise with my lines, it doesn't matter too much. I don't have to get everything exact because I will be able to cover things up with the paint if needed. So when I draw a sleeve, I'm always very conscious of creating, where appropriate, a loop so that the sleeve looks like a hollow tube, because obviously the arm has got to fit in there. Oh, thank you, Kadea Prof. I appreciate that. Okay, so the idea of the painting, as I said, we've got this cafe scene, and these two are going to be, as I say, this guy's stirring his cup of tea. This girl's going to be maybe on her phone or looking at a plate of chips, but then this guy's going to have spotted something on the table. That's the plan. And and then there might be some stuff going on underneath the table as well. So add a few squiggly lines here for this guy's hair. Now, the idea of the figures within a painting like this, especially because I'm going to be adding a surreal element, I definitely don't want to, well, these people don't have to look like specific or particular individuals. They just need to be believable figures. So, oh, hi, Black Swan. Yeah. Thanks very much. Yeah, I do remember you from the cattle and people walking along the seafront painting. I've still got to come back and finish that one, and I may do a slightly different approach to the similar scene because I really like the idea of that painting, but I haven't quite made up my mind which direction to go in. So, but yeah, I definitely remember you. Thank you. Hi, Jake. Thanks very much for joining. Um, yeah, that's right, Black Swan. So this one's more of a kind of line and wash. I'm going to be making this one a bit surreal. I guess the one you were watching before was kind of surreal, but as you say, different approach. So this is going to be more of an illustrative approach. And I did one the other day that I showed the people watching. I don't know if you saw that one, which was interactive acrylic, and that was a scene of some belted Galloway cattle on Dartmoor. And again, I haven't finished that one yet, but yeah, so I just enjoy exploring different styles. Now I'm just pondering my drawing here. I'm just wondering this guy's head could do with being perhaps a little bit bigger, but we'll leave it for now. Let's come over here to this figure. Again, I'm not looking to paint these people's portraits. We just need people to populate the scene. Oh, thanks, Black Swan. Glad you're enjoying the creative aspect. Um, Yeah, I mean, I may not draw I don't mind drawing the lips, for the side profiles, but it's just for this particular style of painting, it's gonna be more impressionist. So, um, so I've put the mouth in on this guy back here because I'm gonna put something on the table in a moment, which is gonna be the part of the surreal aspect. And the idea is that these two are absorbed in their own world. Let's give this guy a coffee cup. And so this guy's just, thinking about something while stirring his coffee. And the girl's perhaps, as I said, perhaps she's on her phone. That's what it looks like from the hand there. But I might leave that unresolved deliberately. And then they won't have noticed what's going to be going on here, but this guy has. So he's kind of just a little amused. So that's why I've included a little bit of an expression for him. Now the guy over here in the background will do something similar. And then need to have this guy have a reason for being sat where he is, and also I need to give him the back of the chair is pretty much hidden in the reference actually, but the arm of the chair is coming in there, so we can perhaps put another teacup there. Okay, yeah, so I'm fairly content at the moment. So let me switch to my other reference here. So what we'll do now is go back to the pencil. And so here's the beginnings of the surreal element. We've got a miniature belted Galloway cow standing in the middle of the table here, the cafe table. And as I say, these two haven't noticed, but this guy has. And I mean, I've used this theme. Oh, is that right? Is the pencil looks like pen, does it? Let's see. Whenever I paint, the brush is either too thick or too thin. So when I try painting, it goes outside the sketch lines. Oh, yeah, no, I totally get that. So that's why I tend to take the approach that I do. I do a very loose sketch, and then I do loose patches of color on top, and then I come back in and refine the line work. And even though I've put ink lines down, if the paint wanders in a bit, I'll try and adapt to it. So what I find with watercolor is if I try to control it too much, then it really becomes a problem because it doesn't, I just have to let it do its own thing. So I try to kind of dance with it a bit and see what I get. Thank you very much, Kadea Prof. I really appreciate that. So you were just saying the pencil and the pen look the same on the phone. Oh, maybe, yeah, maybe. I guess there probably isn't that much difference in tone by the time it's come over the phone there. So I use belted Galloway cattle, quite a bit for a surreal element to my work. I just think they look surreal in real life. But on this particular day, there weren't miniature cattle wandering around, but there were geese wandering around. So it just kind of inspired me. I thought, well, that'd be pretty cool to pop some of those in. So what we'll do is we'll put another cow down here. But this one will be lying down. And what I'll do is I will eventually make this foreground cow disappear into the shadows a bit. And then I might be tempted to put one up on the windowsill. So there'll be 1, 2, 3 a bit later. Yes, I'm using watercolor. So this is, I'm not sure what you mean by waterproof paper, but this is watercolor paper, yes. So it's quite thick paper. And it's good because it doesn't buckle too much when you put a wet wash on. And also, when I'm using acrylic paint, I usually use mixed media paper, which also is really resistant to buckling. So that's really cool. But the watercolor paper is much better for doing lift-offs. So if you put down some watercolor and it's gone wrong and you want to lift it off, then this is much more resistant to rubbing even when the paper is wet. Whereas mixed media paper, I find the surface lifts off and deteriorates. But it's still great stuff, but I just use them for different reasons. Okay, so I'm just grabbing some of the Prussian blue. And oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I get names that mixed up with materials all the time. I was using a particular blue on the channel a few years ago, and I kept calling it Silurian. And somebody left a helpful comment saying, you do realize it's cerulean and not Silurian. And I was just mixing the L and the R up. But so yeah, I do that kind of stuff all the time. Now, obviously, belted Galloway cattle are not blue, but I've got 2 reasons for putting in blue as the initial color. The first is, even though their hair is black at the front and back, quite often, even if I was doing a realistic depiction, I put quite a lot of blue into the mix because there is a blue subdued highlight in their black hair. But the other thing is, of course, because this is a surreal scene, I can do whatever I like. So, I can make them blue or pink or whatever I want. So for the color scheme I've got going here, though, and to make them recognizable to somebody who, doesn't have an insight to my imagination, if they're just looking at the painting afresh, then the blue is close enough to black that they'll be recognizable as, hopefully, as belties. Yeah, thanks, Black Swan. Yeah, so what I like about painting belties is because they've got this white stripe. I like the look of them, but as soon as you start to block in the dark areas, because the white stripe kind of automatically gives you a hint that it's a 3D animal. I've just realized I've forgotten to put in the white stripe on this one down here. So I'll use that as an opportunity. We'll see if we can, no promises this is going to work, but we'll see if we can lift off a bit of paint with a wet paper towel. So we'll see how well it works. Yeah, that's done reasonably well. It's not, I think I'd probably have to work at it for a long time to get back to being close to the original color of the paper. But for where that animal is situated in the scene, she's going to be in deep shadow. It doesn't need to be pure white there. So that I didn't do that intentionally. I didn't fill in the midriff intentionally, but it just happens to have worked out reasonably well. So far at least. So I'm just using a little flat brush here for the animals, because even though they're curvy in nature, there aren't too many straight edges. You remember the last time I used the flat was for the window squares, or one of the last times. The flat gives you a nice sharp corner and a nice sharp edge. So even though it's rectangular in shape, it works pretty well to get into all the little fiddly corners and so on. So it's more adaptable than one might think if you haven't used it before. Oh, I don't know if you heard that. That was my belted Galloway Dartmoor painting from the other day falling off the easel, but I think it survived. So while I've been chatting away and painting the second animal, I think the paint on the first one is pretty dry. So I'm going to take the opportunity to come back in with the same color and add a little more tone and definition just by applying the paint. In a less dilute fashion. Yeah, no problem at all. Black Swan, obviously feel free to pop in and out as you like. Okay, so the next thing I want to do then, I think, is add some dark shadows in under here. So we'll keep going with the Prussian blue. I'm quite enjoying that, but I'm going to add some, I think it's undersea green, and some of the alizarin. And that's giving me a dark colour. So the idea now, I think, will be to, yeah, that's not bad. So put in some areas of dark shadow. To help. So I want the eye eventually to be drawn to the tabletop, and then even though this foreground cow is much bigger, it perhaps won't be noticed quite as quickly as some of the other features. Oh wow, it's 11:15. Okay. Oh, if you don't mind me asking, where are you watching from? Yeah, what time is it here? It's 6:15 here, so you're five hours ahead. So let's put in the arm of that chair. Then we can fill in around that. To some extent. Oh wow, okay, in Korea. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's great that you're watching from so far afield. Whoa, that was close. Just drop the brush. Just change the color of the shadow color a little bit, just to add a bit of variety. Oh, that's really cool that you've got the dual languages. Yeah. Yes, going wild with the brush at the bottom. Yeah. So I just want to hint at some kind of grass or something that the cow's lying on there, without defining it too clearly. So I'm going to pick up some raw umber now, if I can get it to be workable. I'm actually just adding water to a blob of paint that I put in there weeks ago. There we go. So let's pop in a line there. And so one of the things I really love about painting this way is that the watercolor gives you effects that you can't, or I can't deliberately make. But sometimes these effects occur and you think, oh, okay, I can just leave that bit untouched. And it more or less works. It's kind of done it for me. So I need to give the cow on the table some feet at some point. But for the moment, that's not too bad. So now I need to mix up a shadow color for the flesh. So I'm going into my orange. I'm just going to add a touch of blue to that. Yeah, that might work okay. Let's see how we get on. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So that's kind of the idea, really, is that by doing something a little bit surreal, it leaves a lot open to interpretation by the viewer. Whereas, for example, the one I did the other day, where I had the cattle up on Dartmoor, just in the the hazy summer light, hopefully it transports people to a location or to a memory. But there's arguably less of the imagination engaged there. So I'm still not sure I'm happy with this chap's head. Cattle also really look like cows, don't they? Yeah. So I think I keep. I think technically cattle is the name of the animal and cow is the female. But I remember one of my more popular videos is called 10-minute cow painting, and somebody left a comment years ago, quite correctly. He goes, "Oh, it looks pretty cool, but it doesn't have an udder," because what I'd actually painted was a steer. And I did know that, but I kind of figured, well, nobody's ever going to Google 10-minute steer painting, or that was my guess. So I think it's one of these words where, I do it all the time. As I say, look at those cows, but really, I think it's meant to be look at those cattle if you chat to a rancher, but unless they're all female, of course, then that's a different thing. I might have done it in a short. I might have clipped it into a short, but I think it's just a normal video actually. I did it ages ago. If you mean the 10-minute, I have done more than one 10-minute cow painting, but there's one which is one of the more popular ones on the channel. Okay, I'm fairly happy with the shadows I've put on the people in the foreground, so I'm going to keep going with that color, but I want it to be more dilute for the background people. And then what I'll probably do once the paint's dry is use a technique that I really enjoy, and I'll come in on top of the dried paint with watercolor marker pens, and that's really good fun. It gives the image quite a unique finish, I think. Maybe a bit of acrylic for some highlights and things. Oh yeah, the short where I drew a bull. Yeah, I think I remember that one. I think it was something like feel the muscles or something like that. Was that the one you're thinking of? It was a black bull, black Angus bull. I think that's probably the one. So I'm just picking up a little bit of blue again to give the cup here bit of form. And while we're at it, we'll put a bit of shadow under the cow on the table, and also give a bit of cast shadow under that arm. And I guess now I need to, I could probably keep things fairly coherent. I'm going to come back in with the orange and the mix of the Prussian blue. Arguably gone a bit dark here, but I'm going to try and use the oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, oh, you mean on this guy's face? Yes, that's right. Tap the finger. Yeah, the finger is an essential tool in watercolor, or most of my paintings. I just sort of do it instinctively, really, and it's just so much quicker than trying to grab a paper towel or something. I'm not sure I'm so happy with the shadow color I put down there, but we'll keep it there for the moment. So let's get some of the alizarin. Pop some shadows in on this guy. Give this guy some hair. And we'll perhaps put a touch of green on this guy's cap. And on the peak. Now the wash for this guy's shirt has sort of stopped at the top of his belly, but I'm content to leave that as it is. I'm just taking most of the paint off my brush, but I'm going to use a bit of that green just very lightly, if I can get it to work, to put a touch of shadow on that coffee cup there. And then I think this guy in the background, I'm going to make both of these guys be, I'm going to have both of these guys be wearing shades, I think, sunglasses. I need to give this guy a little bit of color in his hair, I think. I'm just pondering what to do with that. Perhaps a very pale brown. Yeah, that's probably enough. So the idea is I don't want these background figures to be too well resolved because, as I say, I want the focus in the foreground. But now we need to put a little bit of shadow on the underbelly of the belty. So there we go. And we'll use that same color actually down here in the foreground. And yeah, I think I'm going to leave that one there for this particular stream. And then when it's completely dry, as I say, I'll come back in with some watercolor markers and add some highlights with some acrylic paint maybe, but maybe add a few stripes onto this girl's top and some details with the watch. And then we'll see where we are. But hopefully you can see how that one's coming together. We've got kind of a loose and lively cafe scene with a bit of a surreal twist. So thank you very much for watching, and really appreciate it. And I'll pop on again soon with another live stream. And I publish shorts, several shorts, nearly every day. And then at the moment, I'm doing normal videos about once a month. So plenty to check out. Okay, thanks again for watching, and hopefully see you soon. Bye for now.